The halls of the Galactic Academy were always busy in the morning. Students from 100 different worlds walked to their classes. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated in special gravity bubbles. And among them, almost invisible, walked the humans. Elara Chen was one of only 12 human students at the academy. She was 16 years old, small for her age, with dark hair and quiet eyes. Most aliens walked past her without a second look. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago. To the older species, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Elara did not mind being ignored. She kept her head down, studied hard, and stayed out of trouble. She had worked too hard to get here. Her parents had saved money for 10 years to send her to this academy. She was not going to waste this chance. But trouble, it seemed, had decided to find her anyway. It started on a normal Tuesday morning. Elara was walking to her xenobiology class when the sirens began. Red lights flashed in the hallway. Students stopped and looked around in confusion. Then the security drones appeared. There were 6 of them. They were floating metal spheres with glowing blue eyes. They moved fast, pushing through the crowd of students, and they were coming straight toward Elara. She froze. Her heart began to beat faster. What was happening? She had not done anything wrong. The drones surrounded her in a circle. A cold mechanical voice spoke from the largest one. "Human student Elara Chen, you are under arrest for the theft of a Class 1 artifact. Do not resist." Elara's mouth fell open. "What? I did not steal anything. There must be a mistake." But the drones did not care about her words. Metal clamps shot out and grabbed her arms. They were cold and tight against her skin. She tried to pull away, but they were too strong. "Please," she said. "I did not do this. Someone check the cameras. I was in my room all night." No one helped her. The other students just watched. Some of them whispered to each other. A few even smiled. Elara saw a group of Violorian students laughing. They were tall reptilian beings with green scales and golden eyes. At the front of the group stood Prince Corveth, the son of the Violorian ambassador. He was looking right at her, and he was smiling the widest of them all. In that moment, Elara understood. This was not a mistake. This was planned. 2 weeks ago, Prince Corveth had asked her to be his companion at a royal dinner. Everyone knew what that meant. He wanted to show off a human like a pet. Elara had said no. She had been polite but firm. Corveth had not taken it well. His golden eyes had turned cold, and he had walked away without another word. Now she knew what his silence had meant. He had been planning his revenge. The drones dragged her through the hallway. Hundreds of students watched. Some pointed. Some took pictures with their devices. Elara felt shame burn in her chest, but she did not cry. She did not scream. She kept her face calm and her back straight. If Corveth wanted to see her break, he would be disappointed. The drones took her to a transport pod. The ride was short but cold. When the doors opened again, Elara saw a building she had only heard about in whispers. The Isolation Detention Block. It was where they kept the most dangerous criminals on the station. Murderers. War criminals. Being so violent that normal prisons could not hold them. This was not a place for students. This was not a place for a 16-year-old girl who had never even been in a fight. The guards at the entrance were surprised to see her. One of them, an insectoid being with 4 arms and large black eyes, looked at the transfer orders and made a clicking sound with his mouth. "This must be wrong," he said. "She is just a human child." "Orders from the Violorian embassy," the drone replied. "She is to be held here until trial. Maximum security protocols." The insectoid guard stared at the orders for a long moment. Then he looked at Elara. His black eyes were hard to read, but something in them looked almost like pity. "I am Commander Thrix," he said. "I run this facility. I do not know what you did or did not do, human. But in here you follow my rules. Keep your head down. Do not make trouble. And maybe you will survive long enough to see your trial." Elara nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. They took her deeper into the building. The hallways were dark and cold. Strange sounds came from behind the metal doors. Growls, screams, laughter that did not sound sane. Elara felt fear crawling up her spine, but she forced herself to keep walking. Finally, they reached her cell. It was small. There was a hard bed, a toilet, and nothing else. The walls were thick metal. A small window looked out into a common area where other cells faced each other. The guards pushed her inside. The door closed with a heavy sound, and then she was alone. For a long moment, Alara just stood there. She looked at the gray walls. She listened to the distant sounds of the other prisoners. She thought about her parents who were light years away and did not even know what had happened to their daughter. Then she sat down on the bed. She was scared. She was angry. She was alone in a place designed to break people. But Alara Chen was human, and humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that lasted for centuries. They had crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. They did not give up. They never gave up. She thought about Corvith and his smiling face. He expected her to cry. He expected her to beg. He expected her to be destroyed by this place. Alara looked around her tiny cell. She listened to the growls and screams of the monsters around her. And slowly, very slowly, a small smile appeared on her face. Prince Corvith had made a mistake. He had sent her to a prison full of broken souls and forgotten beings. He thought this would destroy her. He did not understand what humans were capable of. In the darkness of her cell, Alara began to think. She began to plan. And somewhere deep in her heart, a small fire began to burn. This was not the end of her story. This was just the beginning. The first night in the isolation detention block was the longest of Alara's life. She could not sleep. The sounds were too loud and too strange. From somewhere down the hall, a creature howled for hours without stopping. In the cell across from hers, something with too many eyes watched her through the small window. It never blinked. It never looked away. Alara sat on her bed with her back against the wall. She pulled her knees to her chest and waited for morning. But morning brought no relief, because morning brought the other prisoners. The guards announced it over the speakers. Socialization hour. Cell barriers will lower in 60 seconds. Alara did not know what that meant, but she soon found out. The energy barriers that kept everyone in their cells flickered and died. The heavy metal doors slid open, and the prisoners came out. There were about 30 of them in this section. Some were huge, towering over Alara like mountains. Some were small but had claws or teeth or tentacles that looked deadly. All of them had one thing in common. They had been sent here because normal prisons could not hold them. They were the worst of the worst. And now they were all looking at her. Fresh meat, someone growled. Alara stood up slowly. She did not run. There was nowhere to run. She stepped out of her cell and into the common area. The other prisoners formed a circle around her. They were curious, hungry, excited. A human, said a voice like grinding rocks. I have never seen one up close before. The crowd parted, and the biggest prisoner stepped forward. He was called Graktor. He was a Braxian, a species known for their strength and violence. He stood nearly 3 meters tall. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was dark gray, and his face was covered with old scars. His eyes were red, like burning coals. Graktor looked down at Alara. She was so small compared to him. He could break her with one hand. Everyone knew it. Everyone expected it. You are the one who stole from the Valorians? He asked. His voice was deep and rough. Alara met his eyes. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat, but she did not look away. No, she said. I was framed. The prince was angry because I refused to be his pet. A few prisoners laughed, but Graktor did not laugh. He studied her face for a long moment. You are not afraid, he said. It was not a question. I am very afraid, Alara admitted, but being afraid does not help me, so I choose to be something else instead. Graktor tilted his head. And what is that? Curious, Alara said. I am curious about you, about everyone here. They say this place holds the most dangerous beings in the sector, but I do not think anyone is born dangerous. Something makes them that way. The common area went quiet. No one had ever spoken to Graktor like this. Most people begged for their lives. Some tried to fight, but no one had ever just talked to him. You know nothing about me, human, he said, but his voice was less harsh now. That is true, Alara agreed, but I would like to know. If you would tell me? Another long silence. The other prisoners watched with wide eyes. They did not understand what was happening. This was not how things worked in here. The weak died, the strong survived. That was the only rule. But this small human girl was not following the rules. Graktor made a sound deep in his chest. It might have been a laugh, or maybe something else. "You are strange, human," he said. "I have been told that before," Ilara replied. And then she did something that shocked everyone. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small brown square. "Would you like some chocolate? I saved it from my last meal at the academy. I know it is not much, but I thought I might need to make a friend in here." Graktor stared at the chocolate. It was tiny in his massive hand when he took it. He looked at it for a long moment. Then he looked at Ilara. "I was a warlord once," he said quietly. "I led armies. I conquered planets. And then I lost everything. My world, my people, my purpose. They sent me here to rot and be forgotten." Ilara nodded. "That sounds very lonely." The words hit Graktor like a physical blow. His red eyes widened. For just a moment, his hard face cracked, and something old and broken showed through. "No one has ever said that before," he whispered. "Then I am glad I said it now," Ilara replied. Graktor ate the chocolate slowly. It was probably the first kind thing anyone had given him in 15 years. When he finished, he looked at the other prisoners who were still watching. "The human is under my protection," he announced. His voice was loud enough to echo off the walls. "Anyone who touches her will lose their arms. All of them." The prisoners looked at each other in confusion, but no one argued. No one was stupid enough to challenge Graktor. When socialization hour ended and the barriers went back up, Ilara returned to her cell. She sat on her bed and finally let herself breathe. She had survived the first night. In the security room, Commander Thrix watched the recordings with all four of his hands pressed against the desk. He had been running this facility for 20 years. He had seen countless prisoners come and go. He had seen violence. He had seen madness. He had seen death. But he had never seen anything like this. A 16-year-old human girl had just made the most dangerous prisoner in the block protect her. Not through fear, not through strength, but through a piece of chocolate and a few honest words. "What are you?" Thrix whispered to the screen. In her cell, Ilara lay down on her hard bed and closed her eyes. She was exhausted. She was still scared. But for the first time since the drones had taken her, she felt a tiny spark of hope. If she could reach one broken soul, maybe she could reach others. And if she could do that, maybe this dark place did not have to stay dark forever. Ilara smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow she would begin again. Tomorrow she would find another lost soul. Tomorrow she would keep being human. It was the only thing she knew how to do, and sometimes that was enough. 1 week passed in the isolation detention block, and in that week, something strange began to happen. It started small. Ilara would sit with different prisoners during socialization hour. She would ask them questions, simple things at first. "Where are you from? What do you miss most? What was your life like before?" At first, most of them laughed at her or ignored her. Some threatened her. But Graktor was always nearby, watching with his red eyes, and no one dared to actually hurt her. So Ilara kept trying, and slowly things began to change. There was Vexrel, a creature made of living crystal who had been a soldier in a war that ended 50 years ago. No one had told him the war was over. He had been fighting ghosts in his own mind for decades. Ilara sat with him for hours and gently explained that the war was finished, that his enemies were long dead, that he did not have to fight anymore. The first time Vexrel stopped screaming in the night, the other prisoners noticed. There was Mora, a blue-skinned female from a water world. She had killed a politician who had poisoned her entire colony. She did not regret it, but she had not spoken a word in 10 years. The guilt had made her silent. Ilara did not ask her to speak. She just sat with her, day after day, in comfortable silence. After 5 days, Mora whispered 2 words. "Thank you." It was the first thing she had said in a decade. And then there was Unit 7. Unit 7 was not a person exactly. He was a cyborg, a mix of organic brain and machine body. 50 years ago, he had been a maintenance worker. An accident had destroyed his body, and they had put his brain in a metal shell to save him. But something went wrong. His mind began to break. He saw things that were not there. He heard voices that did not exist. He became violent and dangerous. They had locked him in the deepest cell and forgotten about him. Ilara found him during her third day. He was in a dark corner, his metal body rusted and old. His optical sensors flickered weakly. He was talking to himself in broken sentences that made no sense. The guards warned her to stay away. The other prisoners called him the Mad Machine. But Ilara saw something else. She saw a lonely mind that had been trapped in darkness for half a century. She sat outside his cell every day. She talked to him even when he did not respond. She told him stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and cities full of lights. She described sunsets and rainbows and the smell of flowers after rain. On the fifth day, Unit 7 stopped talking to himself. He turned his flickering sensors toward her and asked, "What is rain?" Ilara smiled and explained. And from that moment, Unit 7 had a new focus. Not the voices in his head, not the ghosts of his broken past, but the strange human girl who told him about a world he had never seen. Commander Thrix watched all of this from his security room. He kept detailed records. He made graphs and charts. He could not believe what the numbers were telling him. Violence in the detention block had dropped by 60%. Prisoners who had not spoken in years were now having conversations. The constant screaming at night had almost stopped. The entire atmosphere of the facility had changed. And at the center of it all was one small human girl. Thrix requested a meeting with her. He had to understand. They sat across from each other in a gray interview room. Ilara looked tired but calm. Her eyes were steady. "How are you doing this?" Thrix asked. "You should be dead by now, or broken. That is what this place does to people. It breaks them." Ilara thought about the question for a moment. "Where I come from," she said, "we have a saying. When you are in the dark, you have two choices. You can curse the darkness, or you can light a candle." Thrix clicked his mandibles in confusion. "I do not understand." "These prisoners," Ilara continued, "they are in the dark. They have been in the dark for so long that they have forgotten what light looks like. They are angry and violent because pain is the only thing they know. But I can give them something else. I can give them connection, understanding, the feeling that someone sees them as more than monsters." "But why?" Thrix demanded. "They are criminals, killers. They have done terrible things." "Yes," Ilara agreed. "And I am not saying those things should be forgotten or forgiven, but most of them did terrible things because terrible things happened to them first. Hurt people hurt people. It is an old human truth. If you want to break the cycle, someone has to be brave enough to offer kindness first." Thrix sat back in his chair. In 20 years of running this facility, no one had ever suggested being kind to the prisoners. It went against everything he had been taught. "Is this a human thing?" he asked quietly. "Maybe," Ilara said. "Humans have not always been kind to each other. We have done terrible things in our history, wars, slavery, cruelty you cannot imagine. But we also learned. We learned that hate only creates more hate, that the only way to truly win is to turn enemies into friends." She paused and smiled sadly. "We are not perfect. We still make mistakes, but we keep trying. That is what makes us human." Thrix was silent for a long time. Then he said something that surprised even himself. "I believe you are innocent. The Valorian prince is well known for his cruelty. But I cannot help you. The embassy's power is too great." "I know," Ilara said. "But thank you for believing me. That means more than you know." Outside the detention block, far away at the Galactic Academy, two human students were working through the night. Their names were Marco and Yuki. They were Ilara's best friends, and they refused to believe she was guilty. They had spent the entire week hacking into security systems and bribing low-level workers. And finally, they found what they were looking for. Video footage from the night of the theft. It clearly showed Prince Corveth entering Ilara's room while she slept. It showed him placing the stolen artifact under her bed. It showed him smiling as he walked away. "We have him," Marco whispered. "Now we just need to get this to the right people," Yuki said, "before it is too late." They did not know it yet, but time was running out faster than they thought, because far across the station, Prince Corveth had learned that his secret was in danger, and he was about to do something desperate, something that would put Ilara's life in danger, something that would change everything. Prince Corveth was afraid. For the first time in his privileged life, Real fear crawled through his cold reptilian blood. His spies had told him about the two human students. They had found the video. They had proof of his crime. Soon everyone would know the truth. He could not let that happen. His family's honor, his future, his power. Everything would be destroyed if the truth came out. There was only one solution. The human girl had to die, and she had to die before the evidence could be presented. Corveth made a call to his father's security chief. Within an hour, 3 assassins were on their way to the isolation detention block. They were professionals, cold, efficient. They had killed dozens of people for the Valorian embassy. One small human girl would be easy. Corveth smiled and waited for the good news. At the detention block, Ilara was sitting with Graktor and several other prisoners. They were sharing stories about their home worlds. It was socialization hour, and for once, the common area felt almost peaceful. That peace was about to end. The alarm started without warning. Red lights flashed. A loud voice announced an emergency lockdown. The prisoners looked around in confusion. This had never happened before. Then the main door exploded inward. 3 figures stepped through the smoke. They wore black armor and carried plasma weapons. Their faces were hidden behind dark masks. They moved like shadows, fast and deadly. "Where is the human?" one of them demanded. The prisoners fell silent. Ilara felt her blood turn cold. She knew why they were here. She knew what was about to happen. Graktor stepped in front of her. His forearms spread wide. His red eyes burned with anger. "You are not welcome here," he growled. The lead assassin laughed. "Step aside, monster. We are here for the girl. This does not concern you." "Everything that happens in this block concerns me," Graktor replied. "The human is under my protection. If you want her, you go through me." For a moment, no one moved. The assassins looked at the massive Braxian warlord. They had killed many beings before, but Graktor was something different. Even they could see that. Then something unexpected happened. Vexril, the crystal soldier, moved to stand beside Graktor. His body rang like a bell as he shifted into a fighting stance. "The human helped me find peace," he said. "I will not let you take her." Mora, the silent blue woman, joined them next. She did not speak, but her meaning was clear. She was ready to fight. One by one, the other prisoners stepped forward. The ones Ilara had talked to, the ones she had listened to, the broken souls she had touched with her simple kindness. They formed a wall of bodies between the assassins and the human girl. Even Unit 7 rolled forward on his rusted wheels. His optical sensors were brighter than they had been in decades. "Protecting friend," he said in his mechanical voice. "Primary objective, protecting friend." The lead assassins stared at the scene in disbelief. This was impossible. These were hardened criminals, killers, monsters. Why would they risk their lives for one human girl? "You are all insane," he said. "We have orders from the Valorian embassy. If you interfere, you will be charged with treason. You will be executed." "Then execute us," Graktor said. "We have been dying slowly in here for years. At least this death would have meaning." The other prisoners roared in agreement. In the security room, Commander Thrix watched everything on his screens. His 4 hands trembled. Protocol was clear. He should open the doors. He should let the assassins complete their mission. The Valorian embassy had legal authority. He was just a prison warden. But he kept seeing Ilara's face, kept hearing her words. The only way to break the cycle is for someone to be brave enough to offer kindness first. Thrix made his decision. He locked down the entire facility. Every door, every corridor, every exit. The assassins were trapped inside with the prisoners, and no one was getting in or out without his permission. "What are you doing?" one of his guards demanded. "Something I should have done 20 years ago," Thrix replied. "Something right." Inside the common area, the standoff continued. The assassins were outnumbered, but they were heavily armed. Violence hung in the air like a storm about to break. Ilara pushed her way through the wall of prisoners. She walked until she was standing between Graktor and the assassins. Her heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. "Stop," she said. "Please stop." Graktor grabbed her arm. "What are you doing? Get behind us." "No," Ilara said. "I will not let anyone die because of me. Not you, not anyone." She looked at the assassins. You came here to kill me, I understand. You are following orders. You probably have families, lives. You do this job because you have to. The lead assassin hesitated. No target had ever spoken to him like this. Take me, Alara continued. I will go with you quietly. But leave these people alone. They have suffered enough. Ilara, no, Gractor said. His voice cracked. It is okay, she said. She reached up and touched his scarred face. You protected me. You made me feel safe in the darkest place I have ever been. That is more than I could ever repay. But I cannot let you die for me. I cannot let anyone else get hurt. Tears fell from her eyes. Real tears. Human tears. The prisoners had never seen anything like it. The lead assassin stepped forward. His hand reached for Alara, and then the main door exploded again. But this time, it was not assassins who came through. It was the Galactic Oversight Council, 12 beings of immense power and authority. Behind them came Marco and Yuki, holding a data device, and behind them came a broadcast drone, transmitting everything to every screen on the station. Prince Korveth, announced the head of the council, you are under arrest for false accusation, conspiracy, and attempted murder. We have the evidence. The entire galaxy is watching. On every screen in the station, the video played. Korveth entering Alara's room, planting the artifact, smiling as he walked away. His crime was exposed for everyone to see. The assassins lowered their weapons. There was no point anymore. Their employer was finished. In his quarters, Prince Korveth screamed in rage and despair. Guards were already coming for him. His family's power could not save him now. Nothing could save him now. At the detention block, Alara fell to her knees. The weight of everything finally crashed down on her. She was shaking, crying, laughing, all at once. Marco and Yuki ran to her and wrapped her in their arms. We got him, Yuki whispered. It is over. You are free. Alara looked up at the prisoners who had been willing to die for her. At Gractor, who had tears in his own red eyes. At Commander Thrix, who stood in the doorway with his 4 hands clasped together. Thank you, she said. Thank you all. It was over. The nightmare was finally over. But the story was not finished yet. 3 days after her rescue, Alara stood before the Galactic Oversight Council. The Great Hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassadors, leaders, scholars, reporters. Everyone wanted to see the human girl who had survived the isolation detention block. Everyone wanted to hear her story. Prince Korveth was already in prison. His family's crimes had been exposed, and investigations were spreading across the entire Valorian diplomatic network. Decades of corruption and abuse were finally coming to light. But today was not about Korveth. Today was about Alara. The head of the council, an ancient being named Archon Velis, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. Alara Chen of Earth, you have been found innocent of all charges. The Galactic Council formally apologizes for your wrongful imprisonment. We have failed you, and for that, we are deeply sorry. Alara bowed her head. Thank you, Archon. As compensation, Velis continued, we are offering you immediate transfer to any elite academy in the galaxy. The best schools, the finest teachers, anything you want. It is the least we can do. The crowd murmured in approval. It was a generous offer. Most people would accept without hesitation, but Alara was not most people. I am grateful for the offer, she said, but I must decline. The crowd went silent. Archon Velis tilted his massive head. I do not understand. This is an opportunity beyond measure. Why would you refuse? Alara took a deep breath. Because there are people who still need me. The prisoners in the isolation detention block. They are forgotten by everyone, left to rot in darkness. But they are not monsters. They are broken beings who never had anyone to care about them. I want to help them. You want to go back to prison? Velis asked in disbelief. Not as a prisoner, Alara said. As a visitor, I want permission to return regularly, to continue what I started, to help them heal. The council members looked at each other. This was unprecedented. No one had ever asked for something like this. Archon Velis was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Your request is granted. You will have full visitation rights to the isolation detention block, and we will provide resources to support your work. Counselors, Medical staff, whatever you need. Alara smiled. It was the first real smile since her nightmare began. Thank you, Archon. That is all I wanted. The crowd erupted in whispers and murmurs. They did not understand this human girl. She had been tortured by the system, and now she wanted to help the very place that had imprisoned her. It made no sense to them, but to Alara, it made perfect sense. She knew what it felt like to be alone in the dark. She could not walk away from others who felt the same. 1 week later, Ilara returned to the detention block. Commander Thrix was waiting for her at the entrance. He was no longer wearing his warden uniform. Instead, he wore the badge of a rehabilitation coordinator. The council had promoted him and given him new authority to reform the facility. "Welcome back," he said. His voice was warmer than before. "Thank you," Alara replied. "I am glad to be here." They walked together through the corridors. The detention block looked different now. The walls were still gray, but there were lights in the hallways, small plants in the corners, signs of change. When they reached the common area, the prisoners were waiting. Graktor stood at the front. His red eyes were bright. His scarred face was calm. When he saw Ilara, he did something he had not done in 20 years. He bowed. It was a deep bow, full of respect and gratitude. The other prisoners followed his example. Vexrel, Mora, Unit 7, all the broken souls she had touched. They bowed to the small human girl who had given them hope. Ilara felt tears building in her eyes. "Please stand up," she said softly. "You do not need to bow to me. We are equals here. We are friends." Graktor straightened. His voice was thick with emotion. "You came back. I did not believe it. I thought once you were free, you would forget about us." "I could never forget you," Ilara said. "Any of you. You protected me when I had no one. You were willing to die for me. That kind of bond does not break." She walked among them, touching hands and faces. Each touch was gentle. Each word was kind. And slowly the atmosphere in the room changed. It became warmer, lighter, almost like a home. Far away in the council's archive chamber, Archon Velis reviewed the security footage from the detention block. He watched Alara's first days, her conversations with Graktor, her patience with Unit 7, her quiet strength in the face of impossible odds. Beside him sat the other council members. They watched in silence. "I have lived for 3,000 years, Velis said slowly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed wars that consumed entire star systems. I thought I understood power. I thought I knew what made species great." He paused and gestured at the screen. "I was wrong." One of the younger council members leaned forward. "What do you mean, Archon?" "Look at her," Velis said. "She is small, weak by galactic standards. Her species is young. They have no great fleet, no ancient technology. By every measure, humans should be insignificant." "But they are not," another member said. "No," Velis agreed. "They are not, because they possess something we do not fully understand, something that cannot be measured or quantified." This girl walked into a den of monsters and turned them into protectors. She did not use force or threats. She used empathy, kindness, connection. He turned to face the other council members. His ancient eyes were filled with wonder. "We looked at humans and saw primitives," he said. "We measured their worth by their ships and their weapons. But we missed the truth. Humans are not dangerous because they can fight. They are dangerous because they can make enemies into friends. They can heal wounds that have festered for centuries. They can find light in places that have known only darkness." He looked back at the screen. Alara was laughing with the prisoners. Unit 7 was trying to tell a joke. Graktor was smiling. "That girl did not just survive detention," Velis whispered. "She transformed it. She healed it. And she did it with nothing but words and compassion." In the detention block, Alara sat with her strange new family. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if she could really change this place. But she knew one thing for certain. As long as she kept trying, there was hope. And hope, she had learned, was the most powerful force in the universe. Graktor leaned down and spoke softly. "What you have done, little human, it is more than anyone has ever done for us. Why? Why do you care about beings like us?" Ilara thought about the question. She thought about her parents back on Earth, about the history of her species, about all the struggles and triumphs that had brought humanity to the stars. Because everyone deserves a chance, she finally said. Because broken things can be mended. Because the darkness is only scary until someone lights a candle. That is what it means to be human. We do not give up on people, even when they have given up on themselves. Grokter was silent for a long time. Then he placed one of his massive hands on her small shoulder. Then perhaps, he said, we all need to learn to be a little more human. Ilara smiled and leaned against his arm. Outside the window, stars glittered in the endless void. Somewhere out there, countless species were measuring their worth in firepower and territory. But in a small detention block on a forgotten station, a different kind of strength was growing. The strength of connection, the power of compassion, the simple, terrifying truth that a single kind heart could change everything. Humanity had come to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again.